I'd just like to welcome everybody to the latest in the series of webinars called Essential Leadership Skills under the GCMA Inspire series. We are joined today by our illustrious chair of the board of the GCMA, Brad McLean. Brad's going to be giving us the presentation, as you see in front of you, from good manager to great leader. But just before he does that, just give you a little bit of an introduction for those of you who aren't members of the GCMA as to a little bit of who we are, what we do. We are a members association. We support the professional and personal well-being of our members. We do that through education, representation. We would consider one of our greatest strengths to be our community. And we have a very significant regional influence as well. We'll sort of bring to your attention, we have conference. I'm actually presenting, or I'm broadcasting today, if you like, from Y Boston Lakes. That's the funky background that I have as one of their training center rooms. So you'll get an idea whenever you get here at Y Boston. It's very modern. Built for purpose. I think anybody who's signed up for conference is going to have an absolutely fantastic time while they're here. And if you haven't, there are still spaces left. The hotel rooms on site are filling up quite quickly. So there's still 2.5-3 weeks to go. So get yourself signed up for a conference if you haven't already done that. The main subjects of conference are going to be technology, sustainability, and well-being. Three very on topic themes that we've chosen for conference this year, and I think we've chosen a very good venue to deliver those. So that's really just everything from me. Really looking forward to this presentation from Brad. So I think without any further ado, I shall hand it over to Brad. Brad, you're very welcome.
Thank you very much, Gavin. Good afternoon, everybody. First of all, thank you for taking the time to dial in and listen to this. What we're going to try to do over the next 20 minutes, half hour or so, is just go through some of the skills that I personally try to reflect back on through sort of my journey through my career thus far, through roles of supervisories to management to elements of we would like to think is leadership. And hopefully that you'll be able to pick up some ideas and other ways and resources to look for your own personal career bet. But before we get started, I thought it might be worthwhile just talking a little bit about my journey so far, how I've gotten to my current role, and sort of some of that those steps along the way. So I started my career in the golf industry back in 1995 in my native Canada, where I was born and raised. Pure chance. I had a good friend of mine who forgot to show up for his job, which was clearing range balls, cleaning buggies. So the head pro asked if I'd be willing to help out. I was a keen golfer, still in high school, and a summer job working at a golf course seemed a great idea. Following year, I was asked to return. This time I worked in the pro shop, and that really is where my interest in working in golf was born. Joined the PGA and started my formal education, qualifying as a PGA member in about 1999-2000. Coaching golf was my actual passion, but I always wanted to be involved in all aspects of a golf shop and golf operations. So I was always trying to be one of the first people to put my hand up to learn something new. In 2002, I relocated back to the UK and continued coaching and working in golf shops, but never in a management or a leadership type role, or a formal management or leadership type role. I think looking back now, every time that you work within golf in any aspect, you are in a leadership type of a role, regardless of what you're doing. In 2006, an opportunity came up as a director of golf with Crown Golf. And it was then I decided I wanted to be more involved with how a pro shop and a golf course operated. I had no management or supervisory experience. And being very honest, looking back now, I was completely and utterly out of my depth. But I realized I needed to learn how to manage and immerse myself in education and practical experiences. My next big step in a management role came when I joined Marriott Hotels, first as a director of golf and then as a director of golf, leisure and spa. Again, I had no experience in leisure or spa operations, but I had a great team. And it was then I began to learn that in order to be successful, you need to trust your teams and surround yourself with great people who can fill in your gaps of knowledge. Again, I wanted to learn all about other areas of hotel operations and spend time with experts in their fields. That allowed me to be fortunate enough to take over as general manager at Thorpe Ness Hotel and Thorpe Ness Country Club, as well as being part of the executive committee of it's a small hotel group called the Hotel Folk. Again, this was by far the greatest jump in responsibility, but by now I was comfortable leading teams and importantly gained the confidence needed to realize that if I really understood my own weaknesses and blind spots, then we as a team could really begin to succeed. Most recently, just before the pandemic hit, I moved over to the Gogs, which is a private members club. And again, completely out of my comfort zone, having spent my entire career in the commercial side of golf. So again, each step has been a real learning experience. In addition, was invited to join the board of trustees of our local children's hospice, as well as the honor of being elected by my peers to the board of the GCMA in 2019, where I currently sit as chair as well. So when I was asked if I'd present and talk about leadership today, it made me think. On paper and in my day-to-day work, as well as other volunteer positions I hold, I guess I would be seen as being in a position of senior management. But is that really leadership? And what makes a leader? So I thought for the next little while, let's have a look at what that difference and what that means. To start with, you do not have to be directly line managing people to be a leader. Leadership's a way of being. It's a set of skills and attributes that you may already naturally have, but everyone can develop these leadership skills over time. There are many managers out there. They'll tell you what to do, they'll set the standards, they'll implement the strategy. Ultimately, they usually get the job done, but to what level? A leader will inspire, influence, and drive strategy and vision. They will generate enthusiasm, out-of-the-box thinking, and drive real change. Every highly successful company or club is led. Let's look deeper into some of the traits of a great leader. According to Simon Sinek, they inspire action. They create a circle of safety, tell the truth, lead the people, and his words, they eat last. If you try to reflect back on any of the roles that you're in now or any of the leaders that you look up to, do they have these same traits? Most of them do. How good they are at each trait really reflects on how good of a great leader that they are. At the end of the presentation, we'll put up a few of these recommended links to some of the topics we'll discuss today so that you can go and look deeper into it. Simon Sinek is one that I quite enjoy reading and listening to. He has quite a few TED Talks, and some of the stuff he talks, in my opinion, really kind of do make you think. So in your day-to-day work, social, home life, you will naturally show leadership and good team working skills. But identifying in yourself whether you are managing or leading is important. So for example, I had to think back over the past month, some examples of day-to-day and other types of leadership that I found myself being involved in. They included working in a team to develop our club strategy and then presenting this to our membership. It has been to coordinate and lead a bunker renovation project at the club, which has included budgeting, logistics, communications, working again with a team to deliver the project and leading that team to get it to a successful beginning. On a smaller level, on a day-to-day basis, it's also been creating personal development plans for our management team, empowering each one to think out of the box how they can develop and be successful. So pointing in the right direction and encouraging each member of the team to be empowered to find out how they can develop and start to learn their own skills. But leading also involves knowing your own limitations and your own expertise. It means knowing your weaknesses or blind spots. But how do we actually do that? So I think back when I was in more formal education some 25 odd years ago, and this document came up called the Johari window. I think it's very useful now. I still think it's extremely relevant now. This was a technique that was developed back in 1955. So some 66 years later, it still remains relevant today. By focusing on the blind areas, these are the traits within your style that are unknown by yourself, but crucially, they're known to others. Identifying and reducing your blind areas will allow you to grow and connect better with those around you. And you will then move to working more in what is classed as the free area. And this is where we all aspire to be. So how do you find your own blind spots? Well, in my opinion, you trust your team and you ask for feedback. You ensure your team can tell you when you're misguided, when you're misinformed, or when you're just plain wrong. You do not allow it to be personal. Instead, you step back and you reflect on the criticism. You make sure your team feels safe and the culture of the team is strong enough to allow this feedback to occur. You'll never be successful if you're surrounded by yes people. We'll talk a little bit more about that culture and making sure that you've got the right people around you as a leader, because I personally believe, again, that's the only way that you can actually be successful. So to reflect on yourself, and ask, is there a way you could identify this blind spot in the future and subsequently move it into the open and free zone? But to understand the feedback, you need to recognize, how do we interact and how do we communicate? So we all have different styles of learning and communicating. In turn, that's what motivates us and others to react as we do in different circumstances. But it's also very important to value and recognize what those differing approaches add. Great teams are made of different personalities, free of apprehension, willing to engage and debate without fear. As a leader, you must identify your team's styles and how to best engage with them for the benefit of the task at hand. If you're an introvert and you have a member of your team who's an extrovert, you need to learn how to speak to them. You need to understand how they learn, how they react. Same if you're a perceiver or a judger, you need to understand where all these different styles are and identify how your team, where they fit into these styles as well. These styles aren't exclusive. They will adapt. People will move between different areas. And a lot of that depends, again, on what's happening outside of their work life. So it's getting to understand your own teams, understand what's happening in their personal lives, and being really reflective on your teams to ensure that you are leading them. So very simply put, your style has to be adaptable to the many different personalities and ways of learning. And the key is to understand that others may not always adapt to you. So as previously described, how we interact and communicate with each other must adapt depending on who. Everyone understands and receives information differently. And as an effective leader, understanding your team members individually will allow you to get the best out of each other. Using the insights model, and if you get a chance to go on an insights course or do an insights session with a team that you're involved in, I highly recommend it. It is a really eye-opening experience to go through to understand where you may sit. And the experience I've done in the past, it really made a big difference to a team that I was a member of that really didn't communicate well. And once we'd gone through the Insights program, it really allowed us to understand our communication levels and how we all communicated differently. So using this Insights model, you find all people are put into 4 distinct color-coded zones. Effective teams will be made up of colleagues from across the 4 quadrants. This will allow creative and unblocked thinking. So many times individuals from different quadrants will take longer to communicate the same idea. But once you can recognize the most effective way to get your idea or initiative across, communication flows. So somebody who's a fiery red speaking to an earth green can be seen as opposites. And one would need to adapt their communication style and recognize the others in order to most effectively communicate. If you're a fiery red, you may need to learn how to become a little bit more caring and encouraging and sharing, more patient and relaxed. And same if you're an earth green speaking to a fiery red, you need to be very quick. I think it's be brief, be gone is sort of the mindset of a fiery red. So just as challenging as having these persons from the same color zone, risk are that they identify similarities and as such could involve groupthink. So understanding yourself first and how to communicate effectively with others on your and your opposite color zones is key. And as I say, this insights model is a great way to do it. And we'll show you, we'll share the link at the end of this as well if you want to learn more about that. So now let's look at ourselves individually. Hershey and Blanchard's model states that instead of just using one style, leaders should adapt their leadership styles based on the maturity of the people they're leading and the specifics of the task. The maturity levels range from incompetence or unwillingness to perform the task to a willingness and ability to perform. So looking at the graph in front, somebody who's an M1 is generally somebody who lacks skills or confidence to work autonomously. So you would use an S1, a tell or direct. M2, somebody who's willing to work on tasks but lacks skills to complete successfully. You'd want to sell or coach. Somebody who is willing to perform but lacks the confidence, that's participating or supporting. And someone who's able to work autonomously with high confidence and skills, you want to be delegating. So as you develop your own skills to identify others, you will discover that you subconsciously will adapt your style to get the best out of your team. But to begin with, you will need to develop your own skill set to be able to direct, coach, support, and delegate effectively. This could be through mentoring, education, professional development, or even just your own experiences and reflecting back on your own experiences. What went well, what didn't go well, and what can you learn from? So how do leaders differentiate? Not every leader is the same, but every good leader is effective. Leaders will challenge the norm. They will develop a point of view and inspire people before pulling it all together and making it happen. All successful tasks that have a strong leader will follow this pattern. So over the next few days, reflect back on times you would have led and identify the steps in which you made it happen. Did it follow this pattern? Leaders that you know, look back, do they follow that pattern? And how can you yourself begin to think, develop, take, pull, and make it happen? So what are the key ingredients to leadership? Provide something to believe in and be passionate about it. Get involved in developing vision and culture. Inspire your teams with your guiding vision. Never allow your integrity to be questioned. As a leader, it will be tested continuously. And to be fair, working within golf, your integrity will be tested constantly. And that's one thing that I firmly believe that you must stick with is your own integrity. So I say, get a good group of trusted people around you who will be honest, including your staff, but also members. Ignore the rest. Be curious and daring. Golf has a very deserved reputation of being stuffy, traditional, not in a good way, and stuck in its old-fashioned ways. So I would encourage you to really dare to challenge the norm. It won't be easy. You have to remain relentless, especially in members' golf clubs, especially throughout the golf industry. But as a leader, we do need to make changes out of this and need to challenge the norm. So some advice on how to be a good leader. Continuing on from those ingredients to leadership, let's look at a few ways you can become a good leader. First of all, be curious, ask questions, show weakness. It is okay. Recognizing your weak areas is how to develop and improve. Unless you show your weakness and identify your weaknesses, how would you ever actually be able to develop and improve and become a better leader? Keep bringing yourself back to why you started your journey. Why do you want to lead a team? Is it just to say that you're leading the team, or do you want to actually get an objective and a goal finished? Why do you want to lead a club? Remember the real reason that you yourself want to become a leader and want to move from management to leadership. Praise and recognize your teams. A great leader will let others take credit and will celebrate their successes. Deal with problems immediately, but do not rush to solve without understanding the issue. Keep learning, network, seek out best practice, and get out of your comfort zone. Be consistent. A strong leader is consistent and trusted because of this. So let's have a look at how leadership is put into practice to deliver exceptional member, guest, and customer experience. When I was doing a bit of research into today, I started looking at other companies out there and came across what's known as the Disney Summit experience. Disney are widely seen as the gold standard of customer service. So I came across these following takeaways from their 2019 Customer Experience Summit. And I thought it would be something nice to share with you all. They all touch on leadership. The Customer Experience Summit is a collection of about 350 business leaders throughout the world that all come together to understand what Disney do and what Disney do well. So their 8 takeaways from the summit was to empower your team to do what's right for your customer's experience. It's to train these employees, not just so that they know the rules, but rather so they're enabled and empowered to do what's right for every guest. When you develop an entire population of employees who care and empowered to create memories for guests, continually exceeding customer expectations is built into your culture. The second one is employees are essential to every part of your success. Investing in your people ultimately correlates to a better guest experience. For that reason, it's important that every organization invests in their employees, as it is your customers and their experience who will ultimately reap the benefits. The third one is young people don't need critics, they need role models. You can't successfully influence anyone unless you're willing to lead by example. People love to work for leaders who are not afraid to make mistakes and embrace vulnerability, as it is a sign of strength. Know what your supervisor expects and go exceed it. This is what every leader hopes for from their employees. From the beginning, you must hire right and go beyond the traditional way of recruiting. Instead, it's about attitude, aptitude, and talent. Evaluate each potential employee with honesty, fairness, and sincerity. Welcome feedback to create an environment where communication is valued and exceeding expectations is the norm. Human beings' feelings really matter. Emotion is by far the most important factor in how we perceive experiences, and that ultimately drives customer loyalty. Drive your customer loyalty by creating an experience connected to your customers' feelings and emotions. Continuously learn, propagate insights, and rapidly adapt. Stay focused on the human experience by constantly learning how people are affected by new experiences, by learning how you can turn insights into something meaningful across your organization and acting on what you learn. Be nimble and don't be afraid to make changes as the experience that humans desire changes. Create a culture of excellence. This statement applies to every industry. It's about ensuring that you create an environment where people want to come to work. This begins by having a healthy work culture. Start by asking yourself, am I regularly showing appreciation for my employees? Do we have a high quality communication practices? Have I identified well-defined standards? And select people with a genuine passion for service. In the end, great service requires people who have a passion for service. Every organization should really hire friendly people who will deliver friendly service. For myself, when I read these the other day, they really resonated amongst the rest of the presentation and the other parts that were coming through from the stuff that Simon Sinek does, from some David Marquez, some of the other sort of great leaders and academics in this field. And I thought these were coming from people who are really on the ground, industry leaders, and these are their 8 takeaways. So on a personal level, as I said, I worked for Marriott for about 5 years. And during my time at Marriott Hotels, it was very, very clear that the company valued culture and leadership, as it in turn developed great people who delivered exceptional guest experiences. The 4 statements above were lived and breathed every day. And that culture within Marriott was one of genuine passion for the company and our guests. It was best summed up with a statement that was pretty much everywhere at every Marriott that I ever came across, which was, take care of your associates and they will take care of the customers. That had been in place for a very, very long time and really was sort of lived and breathed by an overwhelming amount of the people that worked for Marriott. So both Disney and Marriott demonstrate by having strong leadership, you do develop great teams and exceptional experiences. So what have I learned in my own personal journey so far? Culture is key. And as a leader, you must develop that culture. Do your research and evidence-base your decisions. Leave emotions out. Avoid being distracted by the noisy 20. Every club has them. They're the ones who shout the most, but do not truly reflect what your members or guests want. They will always try to change the narrative to what they want, but you must remain focused on your objectives and remain positive. Ultimately, remember, it is just a golf club. And lastly, in my opinion, the most important part of being a good leader is to surround yourself with great people. They will push and support you. And as a great leader, you in turn will inspire them, ultimately building the culture to succeed. So to sum up, do not pigeonhole yourself, as you never know what is around the corner. Get as much experience as you can in every possible discipline within the industry. Continue to grow as a person and leader. Work in a private and proprietary business to gain well-rounded skills. Understand marketing, finance, agronomy, architecture, food and beverage, revenue management, events, accommodation, leisure operations, HR, retail, strategic thinking, just some examples of areas to reach out to learn more from. Build your networking sphere of influence. Seek out experts in all areas of industry, not just within golf, but all areas of industry, and connect with them. Harvest all the knowledge they're willing to offer. Volunteer in other areas of interest. Not only will you be giving back, but you will learn valuable skills. This takes time and you will never be finished. It's very easy for us all to want to learn and acquire new skills, but you must be committed to actually doing this and follow through fully. Not everyone will do this, but make sure you do. And remember, you don't need to be an expert in every discipline, but you must have a working knowledge of as many as possible, or in the very least, be willing to learn. So just to wrap up, I wanted to share one of my favorite quotes, and something that I've personally tried to live by in most decisions that I've ever made, which is that if somebody offers you an amazing opportunity, but you are not sure you can do it, say yes, then learn how to do it later. Effectively, do not be afraid to take a chance. It just might be the best move that you've ever made. So thank you very much. And just before I hand back to Gavin, I put my contact details on the screen, as well as some of the links to the topics we discussed. We'll share those as well. As I say, I highly recommend the Insights, Simon Sinek, the David Marquette, Turn the Ship Around, both the book, and there's a TED Talk, a 10-minute TED Talk, which I highly, highly recommend watching. It's absolutely fantastic. And obviously the Disney Institute Summit link is on there as well. So thank you very much. I've enjoyed the opportunity to speak with you all. I hope you found it slightly useful. Some links in there to be able to grow your own management leadership. So please don't hesitate to reach out. And do remember that here at the GCMA and Gavin on the professional development side are here to support you every step of the way in your journey. I'm now going to hand back to Gavin. I think he's going to ask if there's any questions, and we'd be happy to spend a bit more time answering those questions. Gavin, over to you.
Yep, absolutely, Brad. Yeah, thank you very much. That was first class. Really enjoyed that. Lots of very, very useful tips regarding leadership. Yep, thanks. I'll just put everybody's picture up so as I can see them all. There we go. So there is an opportunity now for anybody who would like to ask Brad any questions about that presentation. Or anything about his journey as a leader, as a golf club manager and a leader, and how he's got to this point. Nice chance to speak up, take advantage of the opportunity. You can put your cameras back on again if you like, and you can unmute yourselves. And I think there's not that. Stuart Leach has got his hand up. So Stuart, you'd like to get the ball rolling?
Yeah, this is recording. Thank you for that, Brad. I'm sure everybody found it very useful. One of the key points you mentioned from that was about knowing your team, and you don't get to do that without speaking to them a great deal. Equally, there are very high demands on our time from other areas of the job as well. How do you balance that, and what kind of percentage do you feel you spend during the week of your time having one-to-one conversations with your team?
Personally, I try to do it on a daily basis. So in two ways. There's the formal aspect, which is important, where you will dedicate time to do a personal development plan, your appraisals, and set your goals and objectives. And I think that's very important to do with everybody within your team. So, and cascading down, so you do it with your senior team and teach them so that they know how to do it to their team, and reflect all the way down to every member of the organization or the club that you belong to. On a daily basis, I like to sort of touch base with every member of the team. So whether it's grab a quick coffee or a 5-minute coffee with our professional team, whether it's closing the office door and having 5 or 10 minutes as a catch up on a daily basis with the team inside, heading up to the grounds team and spending time with our estate manager and walking around the golf course. So I try to do it on a really continuous basis. I'm not a big fan of sitting in an office. I don't like the idea of sitting in the office for more than 20 minutes, half an hour at a time. I like the idea of walking up and getting around, walking through the kitchen, walking through every area of the club, so that you can have that communication style. So that I think it's really important that every member of the team feels that they can just reach out and grab you at any point to bring any concern or issue forward. And it shouldn't just be your senior team on a more formal basis. It should be your most junior chef or the kitchen porter in the back, or your most junior member of the grounds team. You need to know every single one of them and have a few minutes and dedicate that time with them. We are in the business of people and hospitality, and that's vitally important that we know who they all are.
Answer your question, Stuart?
Yeah, that was great. Thank you.
Yeah, good. Yeah, thank you. Anybody else? Nathan, I see you put your camera on. Does that mean you've got a question?
I do, yeah. Thanks, Brad. That was really insightful. Great to hear about your journey, but you did mention one thing which I'm sure is applicable to most golf clubs, the noisy 20. You said kind of ignore them, but what can I just, I suppose, ask, how do you manage the noisy 20? What's the best policy and process for that?
I think the strongest part, and we all have them, and depending on the size of your club, it can be a noisy 10 or a noisy 100. And I think that the minority always shout the loudest. The key to ensuring that you don't react to the latest crisis that comes in is to have vision of where your club's going to be going. Once you have vision and once you have your strategy set, then you can always come back to that same strategy. I think taking time for the noisy amount and getting to know them and getting close to them, so that when there's an issue or something that comes up, they will come and speak to you. So it's a very, hands down within golf, it's the most difficult part of a members golf club, is managing that noisy 20. I think it's impossible to say that they will never be there. They will always be there. But being able to come back and point to a 2, 3, 4 year strategic plan for your golf club that everybody has bought into, that everybody's had a chance to feed into, is one of the easiest ways to continue to bring it back to the objectives of what you want to accomplish at the end of it. But it isn't easy by any stretch. And you have to lead your board or your management council or your committee to stay on that same clear focus. So have your meetings with your strategy document in front of you to say, this is what we're focusing on. Let's not be influenced by what Joe Smith said yesterday morning because he was angry about something. But it's very, very difficult to do, and it takes an incredible amount of patience. I think the emotion side of it, one thing I learned very early on is don't react to a phone call or an email as it comes in. Take time, sit back on it, take your 24 hours, reflect on it, write your reply a number of times, have somebody else sense check it, and then send it. That's probably the easiest way to not get yourself embroiled in a situation that you don't want to be in, definitely.
Brilliant. Yeah, I think that's answered everything. So
thanks, Ed.
thank you for your thought. Thanks.
Yeah, some very, very sound advice. One more question. We have Ben Johnson, not the sprinter, I'm assuming.
No, absolutely not. Thank you for that, Gavin. Thank you, Brad. Great presentation. I actually had pretty much the same question to ask as Nathan about the noisy 20, because it is a golf club, which it is an issue which pretty much every golf club does face. So I'll ask something different instead. You talked about leaders obviously having a vision of where they want the organization to go. So how would you deal with perhaps a senior member of the team who doesn't share that vision with you? So to talk about a golf club, if you've got a senior greenkeeper, head greenkeeper, that doesn't agree with a vision of where you see the course going, how would you tackle that sort of difficult situation?
I think it's a collaboration of having them involved to build to that vision. So you may have the vision of where you want it to go, but again, you need to have your strategy and your objectives of what you want to accomplish. When you have that strategy and objectives of what you want to accomplish, then working with that senior greenskeeper is sitting down with them and saying, here's what we want to accomplish. How are we as a team going to do this? Understanding their communication style, understanding how they learn, get underneath the skin to find out why they possibly are against something is very important. What has happened in the past that may continue to put defenses up or to put those blinders up. And I think it's very much a matter of not just trying to get them on board to see your vision, but understanding how are you communicating with them effectively? Is that where the blockage happens to be? Is it the communication side of it more so than the vision? Is it how the words are communicated? Is it the actions that are going forward? Do they not feel included in the process? Do they have a genuinely good reason for why that vision might not be there? But it's sitting down and getting underneath the skin of that to understand further why they might not be on board. Don't get me wrong, not everybody will buy into it. There are times where you do have to just make changes within teams. But I think you have to give everybody a genuine chance to get on board and to understand it, to buy in, to feel empowered and to really be part of that process before you really go down that next change of maybe moving somebody on or putting a different person in place.
Great, thank you. Appreciate that.
Good. I think we'll take one final question, shall we, Brad, if that's okay with you? Becky Hughes.
Hi, Brad. Nice to meet you. Thanks for today. I know Gog Magog quite well, but not yourself. At the very beginning, you mentioned a list of items that a good leader should have, being inspirational, telling the truth, etc., being able to lead people, choosing to eat last. But one thing you said in the middle was to create a circle of safety. Can you elaborate on what you meant by that, please?
It's having good people around you that you trust and that they feel safe as well. So it's ensuring that, and it's not just staff, so it's having your senior team that you trust. It's having members maybe not within your senior team that you trust. It's having members of your golf club or members of your committees or your councils, people that you have a genuine trust with, that you feel safe to confide in, that they feel safe to confide in as well. So it's ensuring that you have those good people around you, and you can build your leadership style with that, and you'll get that good communication back, which is the important part to be able to lead them, is to understand is to understand what needs to change and possibly where your own blind spots are. And that's having that safe group of people around you so they can communicate back with you.
Right. Okay. I misunderstood it. So thank you. No, that's great.
Good, great. Well, I think we'll wrap it up there, Brad. I think that was a really, really good session. Thank you very much. Very little more for me to say apart from thank you everybody else for attending today. As I say, this recording will be available to all GCMA members through the e-newsletter and the PD update. So keep your eyes open for that and tell your friends who missed the great session that they should give it a watch. Okay, so that's enough from us today. Thank you very much again for your time. Thank you, Brad. And we'll see you in the next edition in this series. Bye, everyone.